Hey folks, how's it going? RedMaster, and welcome back to another video. This time a very important one in the world of Cards and Castles. So, with Cards and Castles 2 being in early access for a while now, right now the only way people can play Cards and Castles 2 is through Steam. It's raised a lot of questions as to when Cards and Castles 2 is obviously coming out for mobile. We've had this asked pretty much throughout the entirety of since Cards and Castles 2 has been a thing, even before its first launch, and people have been kind of just really clamoring for mobile. This game and this, you know, I guess in a way franchise has been built on mobile. It originated there, and it's kind of found its success in the mobile industry. So obviously, a lot of people are kind of curious as to when we can pick it up. And while they didn't say anything officially, today you got some important kind of tidbits here and there that might point us to an actual release date for mobile. Maybe not exact date, but more so a time frame. You know, finally now we could stop saying soon trademark for all of the questions of when mobile's coming out. So stick with us. We got some things to talk about. And on top of that, some pretty scary news regarding the outside world and how that might influence our world of Cards and Castles here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about what we do know so far about a potential mobile release. So first off, if you guys are a part of our Cards and Castles community over on Discord, you would have seen the devs drop a lot of various gameplay videos over the last few weeks of just kind of general features and kind of performance previews about the game on various mobile devices, mainly Android and iOS. And I mean, they look good. It really, they're what you would expect. This is not kind of the main point that we're going to talk about here as being the big news, but it should be mentioned that right now there's a lot of kind of little previews that you can see about the performance of the game on your mobile devices. I hope that they, you know, if that's an iOS preview, then I hope that gets better right there. I mean, the thumbnail alone isn't exactly convincing, but I think that should maybe hopefully thumbnail purposes. I don't know. That I saw that in the feed. It scared me. I'm like, there's no way we have like that cutoff space there. I hope not, but regardless, it is a nice little preview of what's being showcased. Kind of showing you guys that, you know, here and there mobile ports are coming into existence here. You can see tests, gameplay, matches, etc. And of course it's all looking very clean. So performance wise, the game is looking good. There isn't really, I think, much to worry about there. I mean, if you guys know Vaunt and the Red Team Games team, they're great with, you know, the performance side of things. I really think that this over the years that this game really hasn't had many like severe technical issues, so I don't think there was any worry about, you know, having the port, I guess, come over all weird like or anything like that. Like, no, the game is going to look the best it can on mobile, and I think they're doing a great job in showcasing that. So it's also a little tidbit here. It also again shows that the progress is being made. You know, I think the first preview that we got was, I think, around, I think, September, actually maybe even earlier. But yeah, seeing the little test stuff here, the Androids and the iOSs, makes you hopeful that the mobile progress is progressing steadily. But that isn't the really main point here we're going to talk about today, and this of course is going to tie back into our kind of bigger story and our bigger question. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about it. Alright, so let's talk about Unity. Now, if you don't know what Unity is, simply put, this is the engine, or the game engine, that Cards and Castles 2 is currently built on. It's actually a place where a lot of games are built on. It's a very developer-friendly game engine, at least from what I hear. It's more easy to use than other options out there, and it's been one of the longest running, more trusted sources as well. So yeah, these guys pulled off a big swerve this past week when they announced their business model, which is changing. They're pretty much put in layman's terms, their business model is changing, and they're going to be adding fees to, use or have games run on Unity, mainly with a runtime fee that is going to supposedly track installation numbers, or at least legit installation numbers, which will then be charged on games that they deem as more successful than their original guidelines. Now, they want to apparently target very viral games that have made it out of Unity, and ones that kind of generate supposedly lots and lots of profit for studios. But this is going to significantly hurt other games as well. Games that maybe aren't going to be charged right away with the threshold, but what if they do? What if, someone makes a game for fun, it blows out of proportion, and now because of Unity's requirements and terms and conditions, a solo dev is now potentially forced to pay thousands off of maybe even a free game where he's not earning any revenue. That's a serious problem, and I think right now that is or one of the major causes for complaints amongst various other things with Unity. This was not a smart move by them at all, and they are facing backlash, as of now, just with the overall situation. And the way they've kind of doubled down on it too, they clarified, or at least they wanted to clarify, frustrations about their policy, and mention that sure, 90% of the customers will not be affected by this change, but it kind of causes concern for those games who do want to kind of push above the standard. What if they end up breaking out and being this very hit game, not on their own volition, and now, like I said, potentially forced to pay thousands of dollars in or hundreds of thousands of dollars in installation fees that are going to be extremely gross to deal with. And now, of course, that also comes back to Cards and Castles 2, where you might be saying, well, Red, sure, Cards and Castles is coming to, mobile soon, and it is built on Unity, but it won't face that, charge, right? It's not a hugely successful game. Well, we don't know. We don't know about that statement. Right now, Cards and Castles 2 does not see a whole lot of activity, but that's because it's on early access in Steam, no less. Steam has not been a very solid market for Cards and Castles. We'll just outright state that. You look at the numbers, it does not perform well on the PC. And you know what? That's to be expected, because this game started years before the Steam integration on mobile, and that's where it primarily found some success. So when you talk about a mobile release for Cards and Castles, if it's to face potentially the same popularity as it did in the mobile market, maybe not exceedingly popular, but popular enough to stand the test of time. How many years we talked about Cards and Castles? It's nearly been what? Nearly 10 years. We're in 2023. Game kind of pushed itself out around 2014. We're nearly in 10 years of Cards and Castles here. And for a game to kind of last that long, it wouldn't have, I guess, quote unquote, flopped. It must have stood the test of time, and it has. And so the question becomes, does the long-standing legacy that this game create, is that under threat by the fact that now with every installation maybe that a game gets, will developers be charged for that? And that's something that they really haven't put a lot of answering to in the last few days. And so that brings us back to Cards and Castles. What's going on with that, and how could they be more directly impacted by this change? So now let's come over to the other side here and look at the official Cards and Castles 2 Twitter account, or the official Cards and Castles Twitter account that openly kind of responded in a way that I didn't expect them to. Usually, I'm going to be honest, the Cards and Castles community aren't really big Twitter goers. Our main hub is through Discord, and a lot of users, I believe, in there aren't exactly the biggest fans of Twitter, which makes sense. But regardless, they put out this information in response when Unity kind of first dropped the news of their guideline policy shift and the potential increase in fees. And they put this out. The Unity fee scheme is incredibly bad for us. We make a free-to-play games with high volume and low monetization, where we've seen that. The game, the Cards and Castles games, or really right now the game with Cards and Castles 1 and soon to be Cards and Castles 2. Cards and Castles 1, we saw, you know, a lot of people kind of come in and out of the game over the last several years it's been around. You know, sure, people are dropping off because they found that at one point the game was very stale, like back in like 2018 when the game stopped really updating and dropping expansions. They kind of left it at a standstill, but even then the game kind of still stood and generated installations. People kind of kept checking out the game, you know, popping in, hell, maybe even dropping a few bucks to enjoy some of the cards and action that the environment had to offer. And they mentioned right there, our last game had roughly 2 million installs and about $700,000 in revenue over 4 years. That part's a little bit interesting because they don't clarify whether or not that 4 years was in the beginning, in the current day, you know, if it was like, you know, from 2019 to 2023 or from like 2014 to 2018. We don't know. We are kind of left in the dark about when exactly that those statistics were kind of pulled in. But to see 2 million installations over those 4 years, that's pretty nice. That's pretty cool to see. You might not have thought about it, but over 2 million people have at least stepped foot in Cards and Castles at least once. And of course, the $700,000 in revenue is great, but as we saw before, or at least from what we know of, the threshold supposedly is around 1 million for games, and you know, I don't know if that's going to be crossed or if that has been crossed with Cards and Castles in its entirety. We haven't really, I believe, seen when they kind of check on revenue or anything like that to see if they made it in a certain time frame or not, or at least not to my knowledge, which might be bad on me for not knowing. But regardless, it's very close right there to the 1 million mark. And after paying staff and app stores, they mentioned there is very little profit to take home. So even after additional fees they have to pay for, you know, the staff for creating the cards and app stores for getting licensing to sell the game and etc., there's not a lot of profit to support additional fees that Unity is now going to propose, especially one of that potential size. And then they follow up with probably the biggest news that we've gotten about mobile here. Our sequel is now 2 months away from launch, and even with Unity Pro, which is their, I think, one of the higher tiers of the Unity subscription plan, our aspirations of growing with our sequel have to be limited, which is true. The $1 million threshold is the only thing keeping us in business, so they mentioned that right now the threshold is what's keeping them alive. You know, they have not crossed the 1 million point yet, so they can avoid those fees and that policy by keeping the revenue low. But they mentioned if they come close to it, we'll literally have to disable our IAP, which, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest right now that the Red Team games are not the expansive team that people may think they are. It's a very small studio, and for them to be hit with probably a fee as large as what Unity is proposing, I would understand why they would have to close the game or at least unlist it so people can, you know, not see it. They go on to further say it's absurd nonsense. The user installations are free. It's the foundation element of modern software business. You're not shipping physical goods. The software is infinitely reproducible, and that matters tremendously to do many business plans, and they can't do that. So yeah, I mean, pretty much stating outright that the user installations for Cards and Castles specifically is free. So for them to be kind of back charged with every installation possible, that's really bad. That is very, very bad. Now, you might say, well, Red, they could also probably put a price tag on the game to kind of try and balance out that profit. But we saw what happened when Cards and Castles got that price tag, you know, in that first launch. People were adamantly against it. And who's to say that if you bring it over to mobile, you're going to probably face that same backlash if there is a price to it. Now, granted, it might be, you know, much lower on mobile if there is a price tag, but we saw that that was a bad idea. People were kind of driven away by a price tag, and it pretty much forced the team to look into, you know, reinventing the game for free. And so it's what we have now. People are loving it. People are excited about it, and people really want to play it on mobile. But if they can't launch it on mobile because of this Unity bullshit, then that's going to be a serious problem. But the main point that caught my eye was obviously the fact that the sequel is 2 months away from launch, and that pretty much, I think, screams to me that we're going to be seeing a mobile release probably definitely by, you know, the fall, like late fall, like we're talking maybe November, mid-November, at the latest probably December. So the game is incredibly close, and while they haven't said anything to the point, for him to put it, for whoever wrote the tweet to put it up on Twitter like that in such a public manner, it gives me a lot of confidence that they are ready and they are gearing up to sort of this, to put out a push to appeal to mobile, saying, all right, mobile, it's time to eat, it's time to enjoy the glory that is it's basically, they're pretty much gearing that up. So but yeah, the huge thing that is concerning is pretty much the Unity issue. And if right now Cards and Castles 2 finds itself to be in a position where they can't launch because they fear that they're going to run into that big Unity runtime fee, that's scary. That is very, very scary. And, you know, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how exactly the Unity issues are going to continue to play out and develop. Right now, we're only in day, I believe, 2 of Unity damage control. And so there's still questions that need to be answered, and there is still work to be done on the Cards and Castles team's side. You know, I don't think they're entirely done yet with mobile, so maybe hammering out a few minute details, and who knows, it might be ready before we even know it. But that right there is the important part. Nearly 2 months away from launch, or pretty much 2 months away from launch, puts us at around a November, potentially December time frame for Cards and Castles to hit mobile. So there is your finally big question answered after all this time. Soon trademark is no more. You pretty much have it right there. Cards and Castles 2 is coming to mobile very soon. But like I said, the issue with Unity is very scary, and we don't know the dilemmas that will play out with them. So we'll have to see. I assume they're going to let us know. They always do with the more important things. So if they find that Unity is going to be a problem, we'll probably hear about it directly from that source. But yeah, that is kind of the big topic of discussion today. Unity performing some really shady business practices that are impeding upon the potential release of Cards and Castles 2, and potentially haltering its growth as well, its growth and potential success, all because we don't really, you know, see a support system for potentially handling a large installation fee type thing. So we'll have to keep an eye on it as we do, but this was very important to talk about. So with that being said, folks, let's go ahead and close out the video and kind of give maybe some final thoughts on the matter. So yeah, that is sort of the big update, folks, that I figured I'd give to you guys. I know, like I said, a lot of us aren't big Twitter users. I unfortunately am these days with what I do over on the Twitch side. But regardless, to hear Cards and Castles 2 nearly 2 months away, that's very important. That's very massive, and very excited for the larger Cards and Castles community, which, you know, we know is primarily on mobile. I'm very excited for them to kind of jump in and throw more chaos into the fire for Cards and Castles 2, and to have all these potential moments here. And once things do get stable, I do have plans to push out more guideline videos and card reviews, because, you know, right now, I've openly stated it before, but I'll say it again, I don't feel safe putting out the Cards and Castles 2 content as wholeheartedly as I do, or have done with Cards and Castles 1, because right now the game is so fast and so changing, things are happening, things are moving, and especially now, we're in a time where who knows what's going to be finalized, who knows what's going to be changing before launch. And you know, I think they're going to be locked for a while once, you know, mobile does hit. But until then, we're going to be seeing a couple more changes probably, and that might throw some things off. So we're holding off on the big guide and review content for now. But I will still try to push out videos with what I've been doing so far. You know, things like the lobby crashers, more deck videos when I can get around and showcase them, hopefully when the game doesn't change, and delete my replay files. So things are coming, and I appreciate those who are sticking around with me through kind of the drought days of the YouTube channel. I'd admit, definitely not as speedy as I once was with the videos, but hey, that's what happens. Priorities change, priorities shift, and you know, we're getting older over here, so responsibilities and whatnot. But folks, let me know what you guys think of today's news and the idea with mobile potentially releasing in just 2 months time. Definitely some things to talk about. Also, your thoughts on the Unity situation. You know, what do you make of it? What are your thoughts on it? I know maybe if you're seeing that for the first time, then it's some big news to you, and you know, you want to share your thoughts, feel free. We'll try to keep you guys updated with Unity and share what's going on, but we'll probably hear stuff from the team directly if it impacts Cards and Castles in any way. So, yeah, we'll right now it's more of that patient game of we'll wait and see, but it's worth talking about here. It definitely is. You don't want Cards and Castles to eventually not launch, all because of some really stinky and stupid decisions from Unity. So, with that being said, folks, like I said, leave some thoughts down below, and while you're down there, be sure to like the video, be sure to share with your friends, and subscribe if you're new or haven't done so already. It's the best way you can support the channel here and help us grow at no cost to you. But with that being said, folks, that's going to be it for me for now. So until next time, stay safe out there, and stay gaming.